Ava Carter stood in front of the burning warehouse, her heart racing as flames rose higher into the night sky. The heat pressed against her face even from 50 feet away. She could hear the crackling of wood and the roar of the fire consuming everything inside. Her radio crackled with voices from her team. "Carter, we need to pull back," Captain Rodriguez shouted through the noise. "The building is not safe anymore." But Ava knew Marcus was still inside. Her best friend, her partner for 5 years, had gone in to check the west side of the warehouse. That was 10 minutes ago. 10 minutes that felt like a lifetime. "Marcus is still in there," Ava said into her radio. Her voice was steady, even though her hands were shaking. "I'm going in." "Carter, no, that's an order," the captain responded. "The structure is failing. We'll wait for backup." Ava looked at the building. She was 45 years old. She had been a firefighter for 15 years. She had saved dozens of lives. She knew the risks. She also knew that Marcus had a wife and 2 kids waiting for him at home. She couldn't leave him. "I'm sorry, Captain," she said, and ran toward the entrance before anyone could stop her. The moment Ava entered the warehouse, the world changed. The smoke was thick and black. Her mask helped her breathe, but visibility was almost zero. The heat was intense. She could feel it through her protective gear. The fire had spread faster than anyone expected. "Marcus!" she shouted. "Marcus, where are you?" She moved through the warehouse, checking each area. The building was full of old furniture and boxes. Everything was burning. Ava had been in dangerous situations before, but something felt different about this fire. It felt alive, angry, unstoppable. She found Marcus in the west corner. He was on the ground, not moving. A large shelf had fallen on him, trapping his leg. Ava rushed to his side and checked his pulse. He was alive but unconscious. "I've got you, buddy," she said, even though he couldn't hear her. "I'm getting you out of here." Ava tried to lift the shelf, but it was too heavy. The fire was getting closer. She could see the ceiling starting to crack above them. Time was running out. She used all her strength and managed to move the shelf enough to pull Marcus free. She lifted him onto her shoulders. He was a big man, much heavier than her, but adrenaline gave her extra power. She started moving toward the exit. That's when she heard it, a deep, terrible sound, the sound of the building groaning, the sound of metal twisting, the sound that every firefighter feared. The ceiling was collapsing. Ava ran. She ran faster than she had ever run in her life. She could see the exit ahead, just 30 more feet, 20 feet, 10 feet. And then the world exploded around her. The ceiling came down. Ava felt something massive hit her back. She fell forward, Marcus falling from her shoulders. She tried to get up, tried to reach him, but debris was everywhere. She could see Marcus just a few feet away, but she couldn't reach him. "Marcus!" she screamed. "Marcus, hold on!" Her team rushed in at that moment. They pulled Ava out first because she was closest to the exit. She fought against them, trying to go back for Marcus. "We'll get him," one of her colleagues said. "We'll get him, Ava." But they didn't get him in time. By the time they could reach Marcus and pull him out, he was gone. The smoke, the injuries, the collapse, it was too much. Ava sat in the ambulance, staring at the warehouse as it burned. Paramedics checked her injuries. She had a broken rib, burns on her hands, and a concussion. But the worst injury was the one nobody could see. Marcus was dead. Her best friend was dead. And it was her fault. She should have been faster. She should have been stronger. She should have saved him. That night changed everything for Ava Carter. The funeral was on a gray Tuesday morning. The whole fire department came. Marcus's wife, Jennifer, stood at the front with their 2 children, Emily and Jake. They were 8 and 6 years old, too young to lose their father. Ava wanted to say something to Jennifer, but the words wouldn't come. What could she say? "I'm sorry I couldn't save him. I tried my best." Nothing seemed right. Nothing could bring Marcus back. Jennifer approached Ava after the ceremony. Ava prepared herself for anger, for blame. She deserved it. "Thank you," Jennifer said quietly. Her eyes were red from crying. "Thank you for trying to save him. Marcus always said you were the bravest person he knew." Ava broke down then. She had been holding everything inside for days, trying to stay strong. But Jennifer's kindness destroyed her defenses. She cried, and Jennifer held her, and they cried together. But Jennifer's forgiveness didn't help Ava forgive herself. In the weeks after Marcus's death, Ava couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the warehouse. She heard the ceiling collapsing. She felt Marcus slipping away from her. She woke up screaming, covered in sweat, her heart racing. She went back to work after 2 weeks. Captain Rodriguez tried to be understanding. "Take your time, Carter," he said. "Nobody expects you to be ready right away." But Ava wanted to work. She thought if she could get back to normal, everything would be okay. She was wrong. The first call after her return was for a small apartment fire. Easy. Routine. Ava had done hundreds of calls like this, but when she arrived at the building and saw the smoke, she froze. Her legs wouldn't move. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Her breath came in short, painful gasps. She couldn't make herself go inside. "Carter?" one of her teammates asked. "Are you okay?" She wasn't okay. She was far from okay. After that incident, Captain Rodriguez put her on desk duty. Ava spent her days doing paperwork, answering phones, organizing files. It was safe. It was easy. It was killing her inside. She had been a firefighter for 15 years. It was who she was. Without that, she didn't know who she was anymore. She started seeing a therapist. Dr. Sarah Bennett was a kind woman in her 50s who specialized in trauma. She had worked with many firefighters, police officers, and soldiers. "What you're experiencing is called PTSD," Dr. Bennett explained during their 3rd session. "Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a normal reaction to an abnormal situation." "I don't feel normal," Ava said. "I feel broken." "You're not broken," Dr. Bennett said firmly. "You're hurt." There's a difference. Hurt can heal. But healing took time, and Ava was not a patient person. She had always been someone who solved problems quickly. She ran into burning buildings. She saved lives. She took action. Now, she couldn't even drive past a fire station without feeling panic rise in her chest. After 6 months of therapy and desk duty, Ava made a decision. She couldn't be a firefighter anymore. The job she loved, the career she had built, the identity she had created, she had to let it all go. She handed in her resignation on a Monday morning. Captain Rodriguez tried to change her mind. "You're one of the best firefighters I've ever worked with," he said. "Don't let one bad day take that away from you." "It's not one bad day," Ava replied quietly. "It's every day since that day." "I can't do this anymore, Captain. I'm sorry." He understood. He gave her a hug and told her the door was always open if she changed her mind. But Ava knew she wouldn't change her mind. At 45 years old, Ava Carter was starting over. Ava spent weeks researching places to move. She wanted somewhere small, quiet, and far from the city. Somewhere she could start fresh and build a new life. Somewhere she could forget. She found Willowbrook by accident. It was a small town in the countryside with a population of just 3,000 people. The town had one main street with small shops, a library, a church, and a community center. There was a lake nearby and hills covered with trees. It looked peaceful in the photos online. Ava visited Willowbrook on a warm spring day. She drove through the main street slowly, looking at the shops and the people. Everyone seemed to know each other. People waved at strangers. Children played in the park. It was the kind of place where nothing bad ever happened. It was perfect. Ava found a small apartment above an old bookstore. The owner, an elderly woman named Martha, showed her around. "It's not much," Martha said, "but it's cozy." and the view of the main street is lovely. The apartment had 1 bedroom, a small kitchen, a bathroom, and a living room with big windows. It was furnished simply but comfortably. Ava could imagine herself living there. "I'll take it," she said. Martha seemed pleased. "Wonderful. You'll love Willowbrook. It's a special place. What brings you here, dear?" "I needed a change," Ava answered. It was the truth, even if it wasn't the whole truth. Ava moved to Willowbrook 2 weeks later. She didn't have much, just her clothes, some books, and a few personal items. She had left most of her life behind in the city. For the first few weeks, Ava didn't do much. She walked around the town, getting to know the streets. She went to the library and borrowed books. She sat by the lake and watched the water. She tried to relax, to let go of the tension she had been carrying for months. But doing nothing made her feel worse. She needed a purpose. She needed something to focus on. One day, while walking down Main Street, Ava noticed an empty shop. It was small, with a big window and a "For Rent" sign. She stood outside looking at it, and an idea started to form in her mind. Before the fire, before she became a firefighter, Ava had loved making things with her hands. She used to make candles as a hobby. She loved the process, melting the wax, mixing the colors, adding different scents. It was peaceful, creative, and safe. Maybe she could do that again. Maybe she could open a candle shop. The idea seemed crazy at first. She knew nothing about running a business. But the more she thought about it, the more it made sense. It would give her something to do. It would help her meet people in the town. And candles were the opposite of fire. They were controlled, gentle, warm in a good way. Ava talked to the property owner and signed a lease. She spent the next month preparing the shop. She painted the walls a soft cream color. She bought shelves and tables. She ordered supplies for making candles, wax, wicks, molds, essential oils for scents. She experimented with different candle designs. Some were simple and elegant in plain colors. Others were more artistic with layers and swirls. She created scents like lavender and vanilla, ocean breeze, fresh linen, and autumn leaves. Martha from the bookstore came by often to check on her progress. "This is looking wonderful," Martha said one afternoon. "What will you call it?" Ava had been thinking about that. "Candlelight Dreams," she said, "because candles make any space feel dreamy and peaceful." "I love it," Martha smiled. "When will you open?" "Next week," Ava said. "I'm nervous." "Don't be," Martha patted her hand. "This town will love your shop. We love new things here." Opening day arrived on a Saturday morning in June. Ava opened the door at 9 o'clock and waited. She had put up flyers around town and posted on the local community board. Now she just had to hope people would come. At first, nobody came. Ava arranged her candles for the 10th time, trying not to worry. Then, at 9:30, the door opened. It was Martha with 3 of her friends. "We came to support you," Martha announced. "And to buy candles, of course." More people followed throughout the day. Some came out of curiosity, others because they genuinely loved candles. By the end of the day, Ava had sold 30 candles and met at least 50 people from the town. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The summer passed pleasantly in Willowbrook. Ava's candle shop became popular with both locals and tourists who visited the town. She developed regular customers who came in every week to buy new candles, or just to chat. One of her favorite customers was a young woman named Lily. She was 23, an art student who had grown up in Willowbrook and came back during summer break. Lily had bright red hair and wore colorful clothes. She was always smiling. "Your candles are like little pieces of art," Lily said one day while browsing the shop. "Have you ever thought about doing workshops? Teaching people how to make their own?" Ava hadn't thought about that, but it was a good idea. "Would people be interested?" "Are you kidding?" I would love to learn, Lily said enthusiastically. And I know at least 10 other people who would come too. So Ava started offering candle-making workshops once a month. The first workshop had 12 participants. They gathered around the tables in her shop, and Ava taught them the basics of candle making. She showed them how to melt the wax safely, how to choose colors, how to add scents, and how to pour the wax into molds. It was fun. The participants laughed and talked and created their own unique candles. For those 2 hours, Ava forgot about everything else. She forgot about Marcus, about the warehouse, about her fear. She just enjoyed teaching and watching people create something beautiful. The workshops became a regular event. Ava met more people from the town. She learned their names, their stories, their lives. There was Tom, who owned the cafe down the street. He was in his 50s, divorced, with a kind smile and terrible jokes. He brought Ava coffee every morning. There was Mrs. Peterson, who ran the flower shop. She was 70 years old and had lived in Willowbrook her entire life. She knew everything about everyone. There were the Miller twins, 2 teenage girls who loved her candles and saved their allowance money to buy new ones every month. There was James, the owner of the hardware store, who helped Ava fix things in her shop when they broke. Slowly, without really noticing it, Ava was becoming part of the community. She wasn't just the woman who owned the candle shop anymore. She was Ava, their friend, their neighbor, but she still carried her past with her. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, she woke up from nightmares. She still saw the warehouse collapsing. She still heard Marcus calling for help. She still felt the guilt crushing her chest. During the day, unexpected things triggered her anxiety. The smell of smoke from someone's fireplace, the sound of sirens from the volunteer fire station on the edge of town. Even the sight of fire trucks driving past made her heart race. She continued therapy sessions with Dr. Bennett through video calls. Dr. Bennett helped her develop coping strategies. When you feel the panic coming, focus on your breathing, Dr. Bennett said. Count to 4 as you breathe in. Hold for 4 counts. Breathe out for 4 counts. This helps activate your parasympathetic nervous system and calms your body. Ava practiced this technique often. It helped, but it didn't make the fear go away completely. One evening in August, Ava was closing her shop when she smelled smoke. Her body reacted immediately. Her heart started racing. Her hands started shaking. She felt like she couldn't breathe. She ran outside looking for the source of the smoke. She saw it coming from behind the cafe. Tom was standing in the back alley looking frustrated. He had been grilling outside, and the grill had produced more smoke than expected. "Sorry about that," Tom called when he saw Ava. "The grill was acting up." "Everything's under control now." Ava tried to smile, but she felt dizzy. She sat down on the bench outside her shop, trying to do the breathing exercise Dr. Bennett had taught her. 4 in, hold 4, 4 out. Tom came over concerned. "Hey, are you okay?" "You look pale." "I'm fine," Ava said automatically. I'm fine." But Tom sat down next to her. "You know," he said quietly, "my ex-wife was in the military. She had bad reactions to loud noises after she came back from deployment. Is it something like that?" Ava looked at him, surprised. She hadn't told anyone in Willowbrook about her past. Most people thought she was just a woman who decided to change careers and open a candle shop. "Something like that," she admitted. Tom nodded. "I won't ask for details if you don't want to share. But if you ever need to talk, I'm a good listener, and I make terrible jokes that might distract you." Ava smiled, a real smile this time. "Thanks, Tom." After that conversation, Ava felt a little less alone. She didn't tell Tom everything, but it felt good knowing that someone understood, at least a little bit. As autumn arrived, Willowbrook transformed. The trees around the town turned brilliant shades of red, orange, and gold. The air became cooler and crisp. The town prepared for its annual Harvest Festival, which was apparently the biggest event of the year. Martha explained it to Ava one morning when she came to buy candles. The Harvest Festival has been a tradition in Willowbrook for over 100 years, Martha said. Everyone participates. There are food stalls, craft booths, games for children, live music, and dancing. It lasts from noon until late evening. Sounds wonderful, Ava said. You should have a booth, Martha suggested. Sell your candles. It would be great for business. Ava agreed. She spent the next 2 weeks preparing. She made extra candles with autumn scents, pumpkin spice, apple cider, cinnamon, and maple. She created special designs with fall colors. She was excited about participating in her first community event in Willowbrook. The festival was scheduled for the third Saturday of October. The whole town buzzed with preparation. People decorated Main Street with hay bales, pumpkins, and colorful banners. The community center, a large old wooden building at the end of Main Street, would host indoor activities and the evening dance. Ava had been in Willowbrook for 5 months. She had built a life here. She had friends. She had her shop. She had found a kind of peace, even if it was fragile. She didn't know that everything was about to change again.
By 11 o'clock, everything was ready. The street looked beautiful with all the decorated booths. The smell of food filled the air: fresh bread, grilled meat, sweet pastries, hot cider. The festival officially opened at noon. The mayor, a cheerful man named Robert Hayes, gave a short speech welcoming everyone. Then the crowd rushed in. People came from Willowbrook and from surrounding towns. Families with children, elderly couples, teenagers, visitors from the city. Everyone wanted to enjoy the festival. The street became packed with people shopping, eating, laughing, and enjoying the beautiful day. Ava's candles were a big hit. People loved the autumn scents and the fall colors. She talked to customers, wrapped candles, and made sales. It was busy, but she enjoyed it. She felt part of something bigger than herself. Around 2 o'clock, Martha came by with cups of hot cider for everyone. "This is the best festival we've had in years," Martha said happily. "The weather is perfect. The turnout is incredible, and your candles are selling wonderfully." "Thanks to you for encouraging me to participate," Ava replied. As the afternoon continued, more activities started. There were games for children in the park. A local band set up on a small stage and played folk music. People danced in the street. At 4 o'clock, the mayor announced that the evening portion of the festival would move to the community center. The building was large enough to host the dinner, the dance, and various indoor activities for families. The community center was a landmark in Willowbrook. It was over 100 years old, made of wood and stone, with high ceilings and large windows. It had been renovated several times over the years, but it maintained its historic charm. Many vendors, including Ava, moved their remaining products into the community center. The building was decorated beautifully with autumn decorations. Tables were set up for the community dinner. A larger stage was prepared for the evening band. By 5 o'clock, the community center was full of people. Over 300 residents and visitors crowded into the building. The dinner started at 5:30. Long tables were filled with food: roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, vegetables, salads, rolls, pies, and cakes. Everyone ate together, talking and laughing. Ava sat with Martha, Tom, Lily, and several other friends she had made in Willowbrook. She felt happy. This was exactly what she had been looking for when she moved here: community, connection, peace. After dinner, the tables were moved to the sides to create space for dancing. The band started playing upbeat music. People of all ages filled the dance floor. Children ran around playing. Elderly couples danced slowly. Teenagers showed off their moves. Ava stood at her booth, watching the scene. She had sold almost all her candles. Only a few remained. The evening was going perfectly. Tom came over and extended his hand. "Would you like to dance?" Ava hesitated. She wasn't much of a dancer, but Tom's smile was warm and friendly. "Why not?" she said. They joined the crowd on the dance floor. Tom was right. He was a terrible dancer, and his jokes were bad. But Ava laughed more than she had in years. For these moments, surrounded by music and people, she felt truly happy. At 7:30, while everyone was dancing and celebrating, something went wrong. It started small, a strange smell that a few people noticed but ignored. Then a thin wisp of smoke appeared near the ceiling in the back corner of the building. Within minutes, the small problem became a big problem. The smoke got thicker. Someone shouted, "Fire!" The music stopped. People turned to look, and then they saw it. Orange flames spreading along the back wall, moving fast, consuming the old wooden structure. Panic erupted.
Everything happened so fast. One moment, people were dancing and laughing. The next moment, they were screaming and pushing toward the exits. Ava stood frozen, watching the flames grow. Her nightmare had come back. The fire was real again. The smoke was filling the room. People were in danger. Her heart raced. Her hands shook. She couldn't breathe. Every instinct told her to run, to get out, to escape. "Ava!" Tom grabbed her arm. "We need to go." But Ava couldn't move. She was back in the warehouse. She was seeing Marcus on the ground. She was hearing the ceiling collapse. The crowd surged toward the main entrance, but there were too many people trying to get out at once. The doorway became blocked with pushing, panicking bodies. Parents were calling for their children. Elderly people were being knocked down in the rush. Ava watched a small child fall near the stage. People were stepping around her, not seeing her in their panic to escape. The child was crying, terrified. Something inside Ava broke through the fear. Number. Not again. She wouldn't let people die because she was too scared to act. She pushed through the crowd toward the child. She picked her up and held her close. "I've got you," she said. "You're going to be okay." She looked around, trying to assess the situation with the trained eyes of a firefighter. The main entrance was blocked. The fire was spreading from the back wall toward the center of the building. The smoke was getting thicker, especially near the ceiling. But there were other exits. The community center had side doors and back doors. The problem was that most people didn't know about them, and in their panic, they were only focused on the main entrance. Ava's training kicked in. Her voice, when she spoke, was loud and clear and calm. "Everyone, stop!" she shouted. A few people near her turned to look, surprised by the command in her voice. "Listen to me," Ava said, still holding the child. "The main door is blocked. We need to use the other exits. There are doors on both sides of the building and in the back. We need to move calmly and quickly." "Who put you in charge?" a man yelled, his face red with fear and anger. "I'm a firefighter," Ava said. The words came automatically, even though she hadn't called herself that in months. "And I know how to get everyone out safely. But you need to trust me and follow my instructions." Tom appeared at her side. "Listen to her," he said to the crowd. "Ava knows what she's doing." Martha was there too, helping to calm people. "Please, everyone, listen to Ava. We'll all get out if we work together." People started to listen. Fear made them desperate for someone who seemed to know what to do. "Okay," Ava said, thinking quickly. "Tom, take this child and lead people to the east side exit. Martha, you take people to the west side exit. The rest of you, split into 2 groups and follow them. Stay low. The smoke rises, so the air is clearer near the floor. Cover your mouths with your clothes. Move quickly, but don't push." People started to organize. Tom took the child from Ava and headed toward the east door, calling for people to follow him. Martha did the same toward the west. The crowd began to split and move in a more orderly way. Ava moved through the center of the room, checking for anyone who might be hurt or trapped. The smoke was getting worse. She could feel the heat from the fire intensifying. The old building was burning fast. She found an elderly man who had fallen and couldn't get up. His ankle was twisted. "I can't walk," he said, panic in his eyes. "That's okay," Ava said calmly. "I'll help you." She pulled him up and supported most of his weight. Together they moved slowly toward the west exit. The smoke made it hard to see. Ava's eyes watered and her lungs burned, but she kept moving. They reached the exit, and James from the hardware store helped her get the man outside to safety. "There are still people inside," James said. "I can hear someone calling for help." Ava's heart sank. She wanted to be outside, in the fresh air, away from the fire. Every part of her being screamed at her to stay out here where it was safe. But someone needed help. She took a deep breath of clean air and went back inside. The smoke was much thicker now. She could barely see a few feet in front of her. She stayed low, moving along the wall, following the sound of the voice calling for help. "Where are you?" she shouted. "Keep talking so I can find you." "Over here," a woman's voice answered. "We're stuck!" Ava found them near the back of the building, a woman and 2 teenage boys. They were behind an overturned table that had fallen and blocked their path to the nearest exit. "The table fell when everyone was running," the woman explained, coughing from the smoke. "We can't move it." Ava examined the situation. The table was large and heavy. Decorations and other items had piled on top of it. Behind them, the fire was getting closer, consuming the back wall. "Help me lift it," Ava said to the boys. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. Together they managed to shift the table enough to create a gap. The woman and the boys squeezed through. "Go," Ava said. "The exit is that way." "Stay low and keep moving." They ran toward the exit. Ava started to follow them. Then she heard it. A child's cry, faint and far away, coming from upstairs. Ava stopped. The community center had a second floor with a few small rooms used for storage and meetings. She had forgotten about it. And someone was up there. She looked toward the exit. She could see the doorway. She could be outside in 30 seconds. Safe. But a child was upstairs. She thought of Marcus. She thought of all the people she had saved in her 15 years as a firefighter. She thought of why she became a firefighter in the first place, to help people, to make a difference, to be brave when others couldn't be. She couldn't leave a child behind. Ava turned and ran toward the stairs. The stairs to the second floor were on the far side of the building. Ava had to cross through the main hall, which was now filled with thick smoke and growing flames. The heat was intense. She could hear the fire roaring, consuming everything it touched. She stayed low, crawling when necessary, moving as fast as she could. Her lungs hurt from the smoke. Her eyes streamed with tears, but she kept going. She reached the stairs and climbed them quickly. The second floor was smaller, with just 4 rooms and a narrow hallway. The smoke was lighter up here, but the fire was climbing the walls from below. It would reach this level soon. "Hello?" Ava called out. "Where are you?" "Help!" The voice was clearer now. It was a young girl, maybe 7 or 8 years old. "I'm scared." "Keep talking so I can find you," Ava said, checking each room as she moved down the hallway. "I'm in here. The door won't open." Ava found the door at the end of the hall. She tried the handle. It was stuck. Something must have fallen against it from the other side, or the wood had swollen from the heat. "Stand back from the door," Ava instructed. "Cover your ears." She kicked the door hard, once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th kick, the door burst open. Inside the small room, a little girl with dark hair and tear-stained cheeks looked up at Ava with terrified eyes. She was wearing a pretty blue dress, now covered in dust and dirt. "What's your name?" Ava asked, keeping her voice calm as she entered the room. "Sophie," the girl whispered. "Hi, Sophie. I'm Ava. I'm going to get you out of here. okay? But we need to move fast. Can you do that?" Sophie nodded. Ava picked her up. The girl was light, probably about 60 pounds. She wrapped her arms around Ava's neck and held on tight. "Close your eyes and keep them closed," Ava said, "and breathe into my shoulder, not the open air." "Can you do that for me?" "Yes," Sophie said in a small voice. Ava carried Sophie out of the room and back down the hallway. The smoke was getting thicker. The fire had reached the top of the stairs. Flames were licking up the walls, spreading across the ceiling. Going down the stairs they had come up was no longer an option. The fire blocked that path completely. Ava's mind raced. She needed another way down. She remembered the layout of the building. There was a storage room that had a window overlooking the back parking area. If she could get there, they could escape through the window. She changed direction, moving quickly but carefully with Sophie in her arms. The little girl kept her face buried in Ava's shoulder, trusting completely. They reached the storage room. Ava put Sophie down gently. "Stay right here for just a moment, okay?" She went to the window and looked out. It was about a 12-foot drop to the ground below. Not ideal, but possible. She tried to open the window, but it was old and stuck. Ava looked around the room and found a metal chair. She picked it up and smashed it against the window. The glass shattered outward. She used the chair to clear away the remaining sharp pieces. Below, she could see people gathering. They had noticed someone was still inside. "Up here!" Ava shouted. "I need help!" Several men immediately understood. They organized quickly, finding a large tarp from one of the vendor booths. "We've got you," James called up. "We'll catch you." Ava turned to Sophie. "Okay, sweetie. We're going to jump out this window. Those people down there will catch you in that tarp. It's like a big safety net. Have you ever seen firefighters train?" Sophie shook her head, still scared. "Well, we practice this all the time. It's safe, I promise. But I need you to be very brave. Can you do that?" Sophie nodded, though her lips trembled. "I'm going to lower you down as far as I can. Then I need you to let go and drop. Those people will catch you, I promise. Do you trust me?" Sophie looked into Ava's eyes. Despite her fear, she said, "Yes." Ava picked Sophie up and moved to the window. She sat on the sill and swung her legs out, holding Sophie securely. "Ready?" she called down. "Ready!" the group responded, holding the tarp tight. Ava lowered Sophie as far as her arms could reach, then looked at the girl's face one more time. "You're so brave, Sophie. On 3, let go. 1, 2, 3. Sophie let go and fell. It seemed to happen in slow motion. Ava's heart stopped. Then Sophie landed safely in the tarp, and the people below gently lowered her to the ground. She was safe. Relief flooded through Ava. Now she just needed to get herself out. She positioned herself to jump, but then she heard it, the terrible sound she knew too well, the sound of the structure failing. The ceiling above her was cracking. She jumped without thinking, launching herself through the window. She fell through the air. For a moment, everything was silent and peaceful. Then she hit the tarp. The people holding it absorbed most of the impact, but Ava still hit hard. Pain shot through her right leg and her shoulder. But she was alive. She was out of the building. Hands helped her off the tarp. People were talking, asking if she was okay, praising her bravery. But Ava couldn't focus on them. She looked up at the community center. The fire had fully engulfed the building now. Flames shot out of the windows and through the roof. The historic structure that had stood for over 100 years was being destroyed. But everyone was safe. Every single person had made it out. In the distance, Ava could hear sirens. The fire department from the county was finally arriving. They would put out the fire, though the building was already lost. Sophie ran to Ava and hugged her legs. "Thank you," she cried. "Thank you for saving me." Ava knelt down, ignoring the pain in her leg, and hugged the little girl. "You were so brave," she said softly. "I'm proud of you." Sophie's mother appeared, crying with relief. She scooped Sophie into her arms and then turned to Ava, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you for saving my baby." "I don't know how to thank you enough." Ava didn't know what to say. She just nodded, overwhelmed with emotion. Then Tom was there, wrapping a blanket around Ava's shoulders. Martha brought her water. Lily stood nearby with tears in her eyes. The whole community was gathering around, and Ava realized they were all looking at her with gratitude and admiration. The fire chief from the county fire department approached. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and a serious expression. "You're the one who got everyone out?" he asked. "I just helped," Ava said quietly. "You did more than help," he said. "I've been told you organized the evacuation, went back in multiple times to rescue people, and saved a child from the second floor. That's not just helping. What's your name?" "Ava Carter." His eyes widened slightly. "Carter?" "Ava Carter from Station 47 in the city." Ava was surprised. "You know me?" "I know about you," he said. "I knew Marcus Rodriguez. We went through the academy together. I heard about what happened. I'm sorry for your loss." Ava felt emotion rising in her throat. "Thank you." "Marcus always said you were the bravest firefighter he knew," the chief continued. "Now I see he was right. What you did here today, after everything you've been through, that takes real courage." Ava shook her head. "I don't feel courageous." "I feel." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't know how she felt. Relief that everyone was safe, exhaustion from the physical effort, pain from her injuries, but also something else, something she hadn't felt in a long time. She felt like she had made peace with something. The paramedics insisted on taking Ava to the hospital. Her right leg was sprained, not broken, thankfully. She had minor burns on her hands and arms. She had inhaled some smoke, but not enough to cause serious damage. She had bruises all over from the jump and from moving through the burning building. "You're lucky," the doctor said as she examined Ava. "This could have been much worse." "I know," Ava replied. The doctor looked at her chart. "It says here, you used to be a firefighter. Is that true?" "Yes," Ava said simply. "Well, you haven't lost your skills," the doctor smiled. "The fire chief told me you saved at least a dozen people tonight. The whole town is talking about what you did." After the doctor released her, Tom and Martha were waiting to drive her home. They insisted on staying with her to make sure she was okay. "You need to rest," Martha said firmly, helping Ava up the stairs to her apartment. "I'm fine," Ava protested, though she was exhausted. "You're not fine," Tom said gently. "You're a hero, but you're also human. Let us take care of you for a change." They helped her into her apartment. Martha made tea while Tom found blankets and pillows. They settled Ava on her couch and sat with her, not saying much, just being present. Later that evening, people from the town started arriving. They brought food, flowers, and cards. They wanted to thank Ava. They wanted to tell her how grateful they were. Sophie's mother came with Sophie. The little girl had made a drawing for Ava, a picture of them jumping out of the window, with a rainbow overhead and the words, "You saved me," written in careful child's handwriting. "I'll treasure this forever," Ava said, her eyes filling with tears. The mayor came to shake her hand and officially thank her on behalf of the town. The elderly man whose twisted ankle she had helped was there with his wife, bringing homemade soup. Even people Ava had only met briefly came to express their gratitude. As the evening wore on and people finally left, Ava sat alone in her apartment, looking at all the flowers and cards and gifts. She was overwhelmed, not just by the kindness, but by what had happened. She had faced her biggest fear. She had gone back into the fire. She had saved people. And most importantly, she had saved the child, something she hadn't been able to do for Marcus. She picked up her phone and dialed Dr. Bennett's number. It was late, but her therapist had always said to call if Ava needed to talk. Dr. Bennett answered after a few rings. "Ava? Are you okay?" "I heard about the fire." "I did it," Ava said, her voice shaking. "I went back into the fire. I was so scared, but I did it anyway." "I heard," Dr. Bennett said warmly. "I'm so proud of you. How do you feel?" Ava thought about that question. How did she feel? "I feel different," she said slowly. "For months, I've been so angry at myself for not saving Marcus. I've been carrying this weight of guilt and failure. But tonight, when I carried that little girl out of the building, something changed." "Tell me more," Dr. Bennett encouraged. "I realized that I did everything I could for Marcus. I went into that warehouse. I found him. I tried to save him. The building collapsed. That wasn't my fault. I couldn't control that. But tonight, I could control what I did. I could choose to act or choose to run, and I chose to act." "That's a big realization," Dr. Bennett said. "I think," Ava continued, her voice growing stronger, "I think Marcus would have been proud of me tonight. He always believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. And tonight, I finally lived up to that belief." "You've always been that person, Ava," Dr. Bennett said gently. "Tonight you just remembered who you were." After the phone call, Ava lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body hurt, but her mind felt clearer than it had in a year. She had been so focused on the one person she couldn't save that she had forgotten all the people she had saved over 15 years. She had let one terrible day define her entire career, her entire identity. But tonight had reminded her that she was more than that one failure. She was someone who ran toward danger when others ran away. She was someone who stayed calm in chaos. She was someone who saved lives. She was still a firefighter, even if she didn't carry the title anymore. News of what happened spread quickly. By the next morning, reporters from the county newspaper and even a TV station from the city came to Willowbrook. They wanted to interview Ava, to hear her story, to film the destroyed community center. Ava didn't want to do interviews. She didn't feel like a hero. She had just done what needed to be done. But the mayor convinced her to at least talk to the local newspaper. "The town needs this," he explained. "We lost our community center, and people are sad. Your story gives them hope and pride. Please." So Ava agreed to one interview. The reporter was a young woman named Jessica who worked for the county newspaper. She was kind and respectful, not pushing for sensational details. "What made you go back into the building?" Jessica asked. "Most people who have survived trauma would have run away from the fire." Ava thought carefully before answering. "I spent a year running away from fire," she said. "Running away from my past, from my fear, from who I used to be. But last night, I realized that running away wasn't making me feel better. It was making me feel worse. Sometimes the only way to heal is to face what scares you most." "That's very brave," Jessica said. "No," Ava shook her head. "Brave would have been not being afraid at all. I was terrified. But I did it anyway. That's not bravery. That's just being human." The article came out 2 days later. It was on the front page, with a photo of Ava standing in front of her candle shop. The headline read, "Former firefighter finds courage again. Willowbrook woman saves dozens in festival fire." The article told Ava's story. Her years as a firefighter, the tragedy that made her leave, her new life in Willowbrook, and her actions during the festival fire. It was honest but respectful, focusing on hope and healing rather than drama. After the article was published, something unexpected happened. People started reaching out to Ava, not just from Willowbrook, but from all over. She received letters and emails from other firefighters who had experienced trauma. She heard from people with PTSD from various causes. They thanked her for being open about her struggles. They said her story gave them hope. One email was from a firefighter named David, who had lost his partner in a house fire 3 years ago. He wrote, "I thought I was the only one who couldn't go back. I thought I was weak. Your story showed me that trauma is real, but so is recovery. Thank you for sharing your journey." Another email was from a military veteran named Sarah. "I've been dealing with PTSD for 5 years. I've been so ashamed of my fear, but reading about you going back into that building, even though you were terrified, made me realize that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about acting despite the fear. You've inspired me to keep working on my recovery." Ava read every letter and email. She responded to as many as she could. She was surprised by how many people needed to hear that it was okay to struggle, okay to be afraid, and okay to need help. In Willowbrook, life slowly returned to normal. The destroyed community center was a sad sight, but the town was already planning to rebuild. A fundraising committee was formed. Plans were drawn up for a new, safer building. Ava's candle shop became busier than ever. People came not just to buy candles, but to thank her again, to hear more about what happened, to connect with her. One afternoon, about a week after the fire, the county fire chief came to visit. He brought another man with him, a younger firefighter with dark hair and kind eyes. "Ms. Carter," the chief said, "this is Daniel Cruz. He's one of our best firefighters. He's also the coordinator for our county's peer support program for first responders dealing with trauma and stress." Daniel shook Ava's hand. "It's an honor to meet you," he said. "What you did at the festival was incredible." "Thank you," Ava said, still not comfortable with the praise. "The chief told me about your background," Daniel continued, "and about what you've been through. I wanted to talk to you about something. We've been trying to start a support group for first responders in the county. Firefighters, police officers, paramedics, who have experienced traumatic events. The problem is, not many people want to join. There's still a lot of stigma around admitting you need help in our profession." "I know," Ava said. "I felt that stigma myself." "Exactly," Daniel said. "But you've been open about your struggle and your recovery. You've shown that it's possible to overcome trauma. We were wondering if you might be interested in helping us with the support group. Maybe sharing your story, maybe helping to lead some sessions. Your voice could make a real difference." Ava was surprised. "I'm not a therapist," she said. "No, but you're someone who has been through it," Daniel replied. "Sometimes people need to hear from someone who truly understands. And you have a gift for staying calm in crisis. That's valuable in helping others work through their trauma." Ava thought about all the emails she had received. She thought about how alone she had felt after Marcus died. She thought about how much Dr. Bennett's help had meant to her. "Let me think about it," she said. Over the next few days, Ava did think about it. She talked to Dr. Bennett about it during their session. "What do you think?" Ava asked. "Am I ready to help other people when I'm still working on my own recovery?" "Recovery isn't a destination, Ava," Dr. Bennett said. "It's a journey. You've made tremendous progress. You've faced your fear and come out stronger. That doesn't mean you won't have hard days, but it does mean you have valuable experience to share. Sometimes helping others is part of our own healing." Ava realized Dr. Bennett was right. She called Daniel and told him she would help with the support group. The first meeting was scheduled for a Saturday morning at the county fire station. Ava was nervous as she drove there. What if nobody came? What if she didn't know what to say? What if she wasn't helpful? But when she arrived, she found 6 firefighters already there. They looked nervous too, uncomfortable, but also hopeful. Daniel introduced everyone, and then he asked Ava to share her story. Ava realized Dr. Bennett was right. She called Daniel and told him she would help with the support group. The first meeting was scheduled for a Saturday morning at the county fire station. Ava was nervous as she drove there. What if nobody came? What if she didn't know what to say? What if she wasn't helpful? But when she arrived, she found 6 firefighters already there. They looked nervous too, uncomfortable, but also hopeful. Daniel introduced everyone, and then he asked Ava to share her story. Ava took a deep breath and began. She told them about Marcus, about the warehouse, about her guilt and fear. She told them about moving to Willowbrook, about trying to build a new life, about the panic attacks and nightmares. She told them about the festival fire and how terrified she had been. For a long time, Ava said, I thought I was broken. I thought I would never be whole again. But I've learned that trauma changes us, but it doesn't have to destroy us. I've learned that asking for help isn't weakness, it's strength. And I've learned that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what needs to be done, even when you're terrified. One of the firefighters, a woman in her 30s, raised her hand. Do the nightmares ever go away? She asked, her voice shaking slightly. Sometimes they do, Ava answered honestly. Sometimes they don't. I still have bad nights, but they're less frequent now, and I have tools to help me cope when they happen. It gets better, but it takes time and work. Another firefighter, an older man, spoke up. I've been on the job for 25 years. I've seen terrible things. But 3 months ago, I responded to a car accident where a whole family died, including 2 little kids. I can't stop seeing their faces. I can't sleep. I can't focus. My captain suggested I come to this meeting, but honestly, I feel like I should just be able to push through it. I've dealt with bad calls before. How many bad calls can one person take before they need help? Ava asked gently. We're not machines. We're human beings. Every trauma adds up, and eventually we need support. There's no shame in that. The meeting lasted 2 hours. People shared their experiences, their fears, their struggles. Some cried, some just listened. But everyone seemed lighter by the end, as if sharing their burden had made it easier to carry. After the meeting, several firefighters thanked Ava personally. I thought I was the only one who felt this way, one young firefighter said. Thank you for making me feel less alone. Daniel pulled Ava aside as everyone was leaving. That was perfect, he said. You were exactly what this group needed. Would you be willing to come to more meetings? Yes, Ava said without hesitation. I want to help. As autumn turned to winter, Ava's life found a new rhythm. She ran her candle shop during the week. She attended the peer support group meetings twice a month. She continued her own therapy sessions. She spent time with her friends in Willowbrook. The town rebuilt slowly. The destroyed community center couldn't be replaced quickly, but temporary spaces were set up for community activities. The annual Christmas festival was held outdoors, with tents and heaters and hot cocoa for everyone. Ava made special winter-scented candles for the Christmas festival. Pine forest, cinnamon cookies, peppermint bark, and winter fire. The winter fire scent was Martha's idea, a gentle reminder that fire could be comforting and warm, not just destructive and scary. On Christmas Eve, the whole town gathered for the festival. There was no hint of the tragedy from October. People were happy, celebrating, enjoying the cold winter night and the warm community spirit. Sophie found Ava at her booth. The little girl had made another drawing, this time of a Christmas tree with a star on top. My mom says you're my hero, Sophie said, handing Ava the drawing. You're very sweet, Ava said, kneeling down to Sophie's level. But you know what? You were a hero too. You were so brave that night. Really? Sophie's eyes widened. Really, Ava confirmed. Being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you keep going even when you are scared. You did that.
Sophie hugged her, and Ava felt her heart swell with emotion. This child represented something important: a life saved, a future preserved, a second chance. As the evening continued, Tom came by with hot chocolate. "I have something to tell you," he said, looking nervous. "What is it?" Ava asked. "I've been thinking about asking you this for a while, but I didn't know if it was too soon or if you'd be interested," Tom said, speaking quickly. "Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Like a real dinner, not just grabbing coffee at my cafe? Like a date?" Ava was surprised. She hadn't thought about dating since moving to Willowbrook. She hadn't thought about it for years, actually. But Tom had been such a good friend. He made her laugh. He was kind and understanding. "I'd like that," she said, smiling. Tom's face lit up. "Really? That's great. How about next Friday?" "It's a date," Ava confirmed. After Tom walked away, grinning like a teenager, Martha appeared at Ava's side. "I saw that," Martha said, her eyes twinkling. "About time." "About time for what?" Ava asked innocently. "Oh, don't play coy with me," Martha laughed. "I've seen how you two look at each other. Tom has been working up the courage to ask you out for months." Ava felt her cheeks get warm. "I didn't realize it was that obvious." "It's obvious to everyone except apparently you two," Martha said affectionately. "You deserve happiness, Ava. You've been through so much. Let yourself have something good." That night, as Ava walked home through the snow-covered streets of Willowbrook, she thought about how much had changed in a year. She had come here broken, scared, running from her past. Now she had a home, a business, friends, and maybe even the start of something more with Tom. She had also found a new purpose in helping other first responders deal with trauma. The peer support group had grown to 12 regular members. They met twice a month, and Ava never missed a meeting. She was planning to get certified as a peer support specialist in the spring. But the most important change was internal. She had made peace with what happened to Marcus. She understood now that she had done everything she could. Marcus's death was a tragedy, but it wasn't her failure. She had been a good partner to him, and he would have been proud of how she had helped others at the festival fire. She still missed him. She always would. But the grief was softer now, less sharp, more like a gentle sadness than a crushing weight. The nightmares still came occasionally, but less often. When they did come, she had tools to deal with them. She could calm herself down. She could remind herself that she was safe, that the past was the past. She was healing, not healed, but healing. And that was enough. Spring arrived in Willowbrook with an explosion of color. Flowers bloomed everywhere. Trees that had been bare all winter suddenly wore coats of green. The air smelled fresh and full of possibility. Ava's relationship with Tom had grown steadily over the winter months. They had gone on many dates, dinners at his cafe, walks by the lake, movie nights at her apartment, trips to nearby towns. Tom was easy to be with. He made her laugh. He understood when she had bad days. He didn't push her to be anything other than herself. "I'm falling in love with you," Tom said one evening in April. They were sitting by the lake, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ava's heart skipped. She looked at him, at his kind face and honest eyes. She thought about how he had stood by her during the fire, how he had supported her every day since, how he had patiently let their relationship develop at her pace. "I'm falling in love with you too," she said. They kissed as the sun set, and Ava felt something she hadn't felt in years: complete happiness. In May, the foundation for the new community center was laid. The whole town celebrated with a ceremony. The new building would be modern with proper fire safety systems, multiple exits, and fire-resistant materials. It would still maintain the historical charm of the old building, but it would be safe. The mayor asked Ava to say a few words at the ceremony. "A year ago," Ava began, speaking to the gathered crowd, "I came to Willowbrook looking for a place to hide from my past. I thought I could run away from who I used to be and start completely over. But what I learned is that we can't run from ourselves. Our past is part of us, the good and the bad. The question is whether we let it define us or refine us." She paused, looking at the faces of her friends and neighbors. The fire at the festival could have destroyed this community. Instead, it brought us closer together. We lost a building, but we saved every person. That's what matters. Buildings can be rebuilt, but people are irreplaceable. This new community center will be a symbol of resilience, of coming together in crisis, of choosing hope over despair. The crowd applauded, and Ava felt a surge of pride and belonging. This was her community now. These were her people. After the ceremony, Daniel from the fire department approached her. "I have some news," he said. "The county board has approved funding for a full-time peer support coordinator position. We want to offer it to you." Ava was shocked. "What?" "But I'm not a trained professional." "You can get certified," Daniel said. "We'll pay for your training." "But Ava, you have something that can't be taught. You have lived experience, compassion, and the respect of first responders throughout the county. You've done more for our peer support program in 6 months than anyone else could have done in years. We need you in this role." Ava thought about her candle shop. She loved her little business. It had been her therapy, her peace, her fresh start. "I don't know if I can give up my shop," she said. "You don't have to," Daniel said. "The position is 3 days a week. You could keep your shop and run it the other days, or hire someone to help. The point is, you'd be making a real difference in people's lives." Ava asked for time to think about it. She discussed it with Tom, with Martha, with Dr. Bennett. "What does your heart tell you?" Dr. Bennett asked during their session. "It tells me to say yes," Ava admitted. "Helping those firefighters in the support group has been one of the most meaningful things I've ever done. But I'm scared. What if I'm not good enough? What if I can't help them?" "You're already helping them," Dr. Bennett pointed out. "And you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present, honest, and caring. You already are all of those things." Ava made her decision. She accepted the position. She hired Lily, the young artist, to help run the candle shop 3 days a week. Lily was thrilled for the job and brought her own creative ideas to the business. Ava began her training to become a certified peer support specialist. It was intensive, requiring her to learn about different types of trauma, crisis intervention techniques, and how to facilitate support groups effectively. She discovered that she loved this work even more than she expected. Every person she helped felt like a way to honor Marcus's memory. He had always believed in her. Now she was using her painful experience to help others avoid the dark place she had been in. Summer brought new changes. The peer support program expanded to include police officers and paramedics, not just firefighters. Ava found herself leading multiple groups, each one unique, but all sharing the common thread of trauma and the desire to heal. She met a police officer named Michael, who had survivor's guilt after his partner was killed during a routine traffic stop. She met a paramedic named Elena, who couldn't stop seeing the faces of patients she couldn't save. She met a young firefighter named Chris, who had his first fatality call and didn't know how to process it. To each of them, she offered the same thing: understanding, a safe space to share, and hope that healing was possible. One Saturday in July, Ava received an unexpected phone call. It was Jennifer, Marcus's wife. I heard about what you've been doing, Jennifer said. About the fire in Willowbrook, about the peer support work. I'm so proud of you, Ava. Ava felt tears spring to her eyes. She hadn't spoken to Jennifer in over a year. She had been too ashamed, too guilty. Jennifer, I'm so sorry, Ava said, her voice breaking. I'm sorry I couldn't save him. I tried. I really tried. I know you did, Jennifer said gently. Ava, I never blamed you. Not for a single second. Marcus loved you like a sister. He chose to be a firefighter knowing the risks. He died doing what he loved, trying to help others. That's not your fault. It never was. I should have been faster, Ava whispered. Ava, listen to me, Jennifer said firmly. You went into a collapsing building for him. You risked your own life. You did everything humanly possible. The only person I'm angry at is the building owner who created such dangerous conditions. You are not to blame. They talked for over an hour. Jennifer told Ava about how she was doing, about how Emily and Jake were growing up, about how they honored Marcus's memory. The kids want to meet you, Jennifer said. I've told them stories about you, about how brave you are, about how you were their dad's best friend. Would you come visit sometime? I'd love that, Ava said, meaning it. A few weeks later, Ava made the drive back to the city. It was her first time returning since she had left. She felt nervous as she drove through familiar streets, past the fire station where she used to work, past places she and Marcus used to go. She met Jennifer and the kids at a park. Emily was 10 now, Jake was 8. They ran to hug her, these children who barely remembered her, but had heard so many stories. My dad said you saved lots of people, Emily said. He said you were a hero. Your dad was the hero, Ava said. He was the bravest person I ever knew. They spent the afternoon together. The kids played on the playground. Jennifer and Ava talked, really talked, for the first time since the funeral. They cried together and laughed together and remembered Marcus together. As Ava drove back to Willowbrook that evening, she felt something she hadn't felt since before the warehouse fire. Peace. Real, deep peace. She had faced Jennifer and the kids. She had allowed herself to remember the good times with Marcus, not just the terrible end. She had received forgiveness she didn't think she deserved. Most importantly, she had forgiven herself. That night, Tom held her as she cried tears of release, tears of grief, tears of healing. She told him everything about Marcus, about the guilt she had carried, about her conversation with Jennifer. You're the strongest person I know, Tom said, kissing her forehead, and I love you more every day. I love you too, Ava said. Thank you for being patient with me, for letting me heal at my own pace, for loving all of me, even the broken parts. You're not broken, Tom said. You're beautifully, perfectly, wonderfully human. October arrived again, bringing with it memories of the festival fire. The new community center was finished, a beautiful building that honored the past while embracing the future. It had large windows, multiple exits, state-of-the-art fire suppression systems, and a memorial plaque listing the names of everyone who helped during the evacuation. The annual Harvest Festival was scheduled for the same weekend as last year. Some people in the town were nervous about holding it so soon after the fire. Others thought it was exactly what the community needed, a way to show that they could celebrate again, that they had overcome. The town council decided to hold a smaller daytime event. Nothing inside the new building yet, just outdoor booths and activities. They planned a dedication ceremony for the community center for the following month. Ava set up her candle booth again. This year, she wasn't nervous. She had her regular customers, her friends, her place in the community. As she arranged her autumn-scented candles, people stopped by to chat, to thank her again for last year, to see how she was doing. Sophie, now 8 years old, came by with her mother. She was taller, more confident than last year. "I made you something," Sophie said, handing Ava a small package. Inside was a handmade candle. It was a bit lopsided, the color wasn't quite even, but it was made with love. "I took a class to learn how to make them," Sophie explained proudly. "My mom helped me. I wanted to make one for you because you saved my life, and because you taught me that being scared is okay as long as you don't let it stop you." Ava hugged the little girl, too moved to speak for a moment. This child, who had been so scared a year ago, was now making candles and learning to be brave. That was the real victory. The festival was a success. The weather was perfect. People were happy. There were no fires, no emergencies, just a community enjoying being together. That evening, after the festival ended and Ava had packed up her remaining candles, Tom took her hand. "Walk with me," he asked. They walked through the quiet streets of Willowbrook as the sun set. Tom led her to the lake, where the water reflected the orange and pink sky. "This is where I told you I was falling in love with you," Tom said. "I remember," Ava smiled. Tom took both her hands in his and looked into her eyes. "Ava Carter, this past year with you has been the best year of my life. You're brave, kind, strong, and beautiful. You make me want to be a better person. You've shown me what true courage looks like. I love you more than I thought it was possible to love someone." He got down on one knee, and Ava's breath caught. "Will you marry me?" Tom asked, holding out a simple, beautiful ring. Ava felt tears streaming down her face. A year ago she had been broken, hiding, afraid of her own shadow. Now she was standing here, being proposed to, feeling happy and whole and ready for the future. "Yes," she said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I'll marry you." Tom stood up and kissed her, and Ava felt like she was floating. She had never expected to find love again. She had never expected to be happy again. But here she was, engaged to a wonderful man, living in a town she loved, doing work that mattered. Life had given her a second chance, and she had taken it.
The wedding was planned for the following spring, a small ceremony at the new community center with their closest friends and family. Ava couldn't believe she was planning a wedding at 49 years old, but age was just a number. What mattered was that she had found someone who loved her completely, who accepted her past and believed in her future. Winter came again, and with it, more changes. The peer support program had grown so much that Ava was asked to help train other peer support coordinators in neighboring counties. She traveled to different fire stations and police departments, sharing her story and teaching others how to create supportive environments for first responders dealing with trauma. She also started speaking at conferences about PTSD and recovery. At first, public speaking terrified her, but she remembered what she had learned. Courage wasn't about not being afraid. It was about acting despite the fear. Her talks resonated with people. She received letters from first responders across the country, thanking her for giving voice to struggles they had hidden for years. She heard from people who had been considering leaving their jobs because of untreated trauma, who decided to seek help instead after hearing her speak. One letter particularly moved her. It was from a firefighter in California named Robert. "Dear Ava," he wrote, "I responded to a wildfire 3 years ago where several civilians died. I've been having nightmares and flashbacks ever since. I was ready to quit, to give up completely. Then I heard you speak at a conference. You said something that changed everything for me. You said, 'We honor those we couldn't save by living fully, by helping others, by not letting their deaths destroy us too.' That hit me so hard. I realized I've been dishonoring my fallen civilians by giving up on life. Because of you, I sought help. I'm in therapy now. I'm getting better. Thank you for showing me that recovery is possible." Ava read that letter multiple times. This was why she did what she did. If she could help even one person avoid the dark place she had been in, every moment of pain she had experienced was worth it. Her candle shop continued to thrive with Lily's help. The young woman had brought fresh energy to the business, creating new candle designs and even starting a small online shop to sell their candles beyond Willowbrook. What had started as Ava's therapy project had become a successful small business. One February afternoon, as Ava was preparing for a peer support meeting, she received a call from Captain Rodriguez, her former fire captain. "Ava," he said, his voice warm, "I have something to tell you. The fire department has decided to establish an annual award in Marcus's name, the Marcus Rodriguez Memorial Award for Courage and Compassion. It will be given to a firefighter who exemplifies both bravery in the field and care for their fellow firefighters." Ava felt emotion rise in her throat. "That's beautiful. Marcus would have loved that." "The board was unanimous," Captain Rodriguez continued. "And Ava, we want you to present the award at the ceremony. We want you to come back, not to work, but to be honored for your service and for the work you've been doing with the peer support program." Ava hesitated. Going back to the fire station would be hard, but it would also be closure. "I'll do it," she said. The award ceremony was scheduled for March, during Fire Service Recognition Week. Ava drove to the city with Tom by her side. Walking into the fire station felt surreal. Everything was the same, but she was different. Her former colleagues greeted her with hugs and respect. They told her how proud they were of what she was doing. They introduced her to new firefighters who had joined since she left. At the ceremony, Ava stood at the podium and spoke about Marcus. "Marcus Rodriguez was my partner, my best friend, and one of the finest firefighters I've ever known," she began. "He loved this job. He loved helping people. He loved his family, and he loved his fellow firefighters like they were his family too." She paused, composing herself. "When Marcus died, I thought my life was over too. I couldn't imagine going on without him. I couldn't imagine being a firefighter without my partner. But over the past 2 years, I've learned that the best way to honor someone's memory is not to stop living, but to live more fully, to help more people, to be brave, like they were brave." She looked at the assembled firefighters. "Every one of you risks your life for others. Every one of you has seen things that most people never see, and every one of you carries the weight of those experiences. This award, the Marcus Rodriguez Memorial Award for Courage and Compassion, isn't just about being brave in fires. It's about being brave enough to admit when you need help. It's about having compassion for yourself and your colleagues when things get hard. Marcus would want that for all of you." She presented the first award to a firefighter who had not only saved multiple lives during a major incident, but had also started a mental health support initiative at his station. After the ceremony, Jennifer and the kids were there. They had been invited as special guests. Ava spent time with them, and it felt natural now, not painful. They had all learned to carry Marcus's memory without letting it crush them. As Ava and Tom drove back to Willowbrook that evening, Ava felt a sense of completion. She had come full circle. She had faced her past, made peace with it, and was now helping others do the same. "You're amazing," Tom said, glancing at her with love in his eyes. "I'm so proud of you." "I couldn't have done any of this without you," Ava said. "You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." "That's what love is," Tom said simply. Spring arrived with a rush of warmth and new growth. Cherry blossoms bloomed around Willowbrook. The lake sparkled in the sunlight. It was the perfect time for a wedding. Ava and Tom's wedding was held on a Saturday afternoon in late April at the new community center. The building had been officially opened a month earlier and was already the heart of Willowbrook again. The ceremony was small and intimate. Martha was Ava's maid of honor. Tom's brother was his best man. Lily and Sophie were bridesmaids. The chairs were filled with friends from Willowbrook, colleagues from the peer support program, and some of Ava's former firefighter friends from the city. Jennifer came with Emily and Jake. Captain Rodriguez came. Dr. Bennett came. Daniel from the fire department came. The community center was filled with everyone who had been part of Ava's journey from brokenness to wholeness. Ava wore a simple but elegant white dress. She carried a bouquet of wildflowers from Martha's shop. As she walked down the aisle, she felt overwhelming gratitude. 2 years ago, she couldn't have imagined this moment. She had been too lost in grief and fear to imagine ever being happy again. But here she was, walking toward a man who loved her, surrounded by people who cared about her, in a town that had given her a second chance at life.
Tom's eyes were wet with tears as she reached him. "You're beautiful," he whispered. The ceremony was officiated by Mayor Hayes. He spoke about love, resilience, and second chances. Ava and Tom's love story reminds us that it's never too late for happiness, the mayor said. They've both known loss and pain. They've both had to rebuild their lives, but they found each other, and together they've created something beautiful. When it was time for vows, Ava spoke from her heart. "Tom, when I came to Willowbrook, I was running away from my past. I was broken and scared. I didn't think I could ever be whole again. But you saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You were patient when I needed time. You were strong when I was weak. You made me laugh when I wanted to cry. You loved me when I couldn't love myself." Her voice shook with emotion. "You taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who accepts your imperfections and loves you anyway. I promise to love you, to support you, to laugh with you, and to face whatever challenges life brings us together. I promise to be brave with you and for you. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of my life." Tom wiped his eyes and began his vows. "Ava, the day you walked into my cafe, I knew you were special, but I had no idea how special you would become to me. You're the strongest person I know. You've overcome so much. You've taken your pain and turned it into purpose. You help others heal while still healing yourself. You're brave, kind, compassionate, and beautiful inside and out." He took her hands. "I promise to stand by you, no matter what. I promise to support your dreams and celebrate your victories. I promise to hold you when you have nightmares, and to remind you of your strength when you forget. I promise to love you in the good times and the hard times, in joy and in sorrow, for all the days of my life." They exchanged rings, simple gold bands that symbolized their commitment. "By the power vested in me," Mayor Hayes said with a huge smile, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Tom, you may kiss your bride." Tom pulled Ava close and kissed her as their friends and family cheered. Ava felt joy bubble up inside her. She was married. She had a husband. She had a future. The reception was held in the same building. Tables were decorated with Ava's candles, giving everything a soft, warm glow. There was food and music and dancing. Martha gave an emotional toast about watching Ava transform from a scared newcomer to a confident, beloved member of the community. Tom's brother shared funny stories about Tom's terrible attempts at dating before Ava came along. Sophie gave a short speech that she had prepared herself. "Miss Ava saved my life," the little girl said seriously. "But she also taught me that being brave means doing scary things because they're important. Miss Ava is my hero, and I'm so happy she's staying in Willowbrook forever now." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. As the evening wore on and people danced and celebrated, Ava stood on the edge of the dance floor, taking it all in. Tom came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. "Happy?" he asked. More than I ever thought possible, Ava said, leaning back into his embrace. She looked around the room at all the faces she had come to love. Martha, who had been her first friend in Willowbrook. Lily, whose creativity had breathed new life into her candle business. Sophie, who represented the lives she had saved. Her fellow peer support group members, who she helped heal. Her former colleagues from the fire department, who had welcomed her back. Everyone in this room was part of her story. They had all helped her become who she was now. I used to think my life ended the day Marcus died, Ava said quietly to Tom. But I realize now that it didn't end. It changed. And change is not the same as ending. No, it's not, Tom agreed. I'll always miss Marcus, Ava continued. He was my best friend, and his death changed me forever. But I'm grateful for that change now. If it hadn't happened, I wouldn't have come to Willowbrook. I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have found this new purpose helping other first responders. I wouldn't be this person I am now. She turned in Tom's arms to face him. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone, she said, but I'm grateful for where it led me. Is that wrong? No, Tom said, touching her face gently. That's called healing. That's called growth. That's called being human. They danced together as the evening turned to night. Ava felt light, like she could float away. She had carried so much weight for so long, guilt, grief, fear. But she had finally put it down. She would always carry Marcus's memory, but it no longer crushed her. It reminded her to live fully, to help others, to be brave. As the celebration wound down and guests started to leave, Sophie came to say goodbye. She hugged Ava tightly. I'm glad you're happy, Sophie said. Me too, sweetheart, Ava replied. Me too. 3 years later. Ava Carter Mitchell stood in her home office, looking at the calendar on the wall. It was October again, 3 years since the festival fire, 5 years since Marcus's death. So much had changed. She and Tom had bought a house on the edge of town, overlooking the lake. It was perfect, cozy, warm, full of light. They had turned one of the rooms into Ava's home office, where she prepared for her peer support work and sometimes made special candles. The peer support program had expanded beyond anyone's expectations. Ava now coordinated support services for 6 counties. She had trained 20 other peer support specialists. She had helped hundreds of first responders process trauma and continue their careers. She had also written a book about her experiences, titled Through the Flames, A Firefighter's Journey from Trauma to Healing. It wasn't a bestseller, but it reached the people who needed it. She received messages regularly from first responders telling her how the book had helped them. Her candle shop was now co-owned by Lily, who had graduated from art school and decided she wanted to stay in Willowbrook. They had expanded into 3 nearby towns, and their online business was thriving. Tom's cafe had also grown. He had added a small bookshop section, creating a cozy space where people could read while enjoying coffee and pastries. He and Ava were partners in business and in life, supporting each other's dreams. The most exciting news was that Ava was pregnant. At 52 years old, it had been a surprise. A happy, miraculous surprise. She was 4 months along, and they had just found out they were having a girl. We can't believe it either, she had told Dr. Bennett during their most recent session, which was now only once a month for maintenance. I thought this chapter of my life was closed. Life has a way of surprising us, Dr. Bennett had said with a smile. How do you feel about it? Scared, Ava had admitted, but excited, happy, grateful, all the things. That's perfectly normal, Dr. Bennett had assured her. You've come so far, Ava. You're ready for this. Now, standing in her office, Ava placed a hand on her growing belly and smiled. They were going to name the baby Maria, after Marcus's mother. Jennifer had given them her blessing, touched that they wanted to honor Marcus's family. There was a knock on the office door, and Tom came in with a cup of herbal tea. "How's my wife and baby daughter doing?" he asked, kissing Ava's forehead. "Good," Ava said, "just thinking about how much has changed." "For the better," Tom said. "Definitely for the better," Ava agreed. That evening, they walked to the community center for the annual memorial ceremony. Every year since the fire, the town held a small ceremony on the anniversary to remember what happened and honor those who helped during the evacuation. The ceremony had evolved over time. It was no longer just about the fire. It had become a time to celebrate resilience, community, and second chances. Ava was asked to speak, as she was every year. She stood at the podium and looked at the assembled crowd. She saw familiar faces. Martha, now retired but still active in the community. Lily with her fiancé. Sophie, now 11 years old and confident. James from the hardware store. Mrs. Peterson from the flower shop. The mayor. Daniel from the fire department. Members of her peer support groups. And Tom, always Tom, looking at her with love and pride. 3 years ago, Ava began, this building burned down during what should have been a celebration. It was terrifying. It was traumatic. But it also showed us what we're capable of when we work together. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I came to Willowbrook 5 years ago, running from my past, broken by tragedy. I thought I was finished. Finished as a firefighter, finished being brave, maybe even finished living in any meaningful way. But this community gave me something precious. A second chance. She smiled at the crowd. You welcomed me. You became my friends. You supported me when I struggled. You celebrated with me when I succeeded. And when the fire happened, you trusted me to help, even though I was terrified. Her voice grew stronger. That night taught me something important. Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about acting despite the fear. It's about choosing to help even when helping is hard. It's about getting back up after you've been knocked down. She looked directly at Tom. It's about opening your heart to love again, even after loss. It's about trying new things, even when you're scared. It's about believing that tomorrow can be better than today. Ava placed a hand on her belly, a gesture that many in the crowd noticed. Life gives us challenges. It gives us loss and pain and fear. But it also gives us opportunities for growth, for healing, for finding new purposes and new joys. The question is whether we have the courage to take those opportunities. She finished her speech with words she had said before, but that felt more true each time. We honor those we've lost, not by stopping our lives, but by living them more fully. We honor our pain not by letting it destroy us, but by using it to become more compassionate, more understanding, more human. We honor our fears not by avoiding them, but by facing them with courage. The crowd applauded, and Ava stepped down from the podium. Sophie ran up to hug her, followed by others wanting to share their appreciation. Later, as Ava and Tom walked home under the stars, Tom asked, "Do you ever miss firefighting?" Ava thought about it. "Sometimes," she admitted. "I miss the adrenaline, the teamwork, the feeling of saving someone's life. But what I do now, helping first responders heal, preventing them from reaching the dark place I was in, that saves lives too, just in a different way." "You've saved so many people," Tom said, "on that festival night and every day since." "We save each other," Ava said. "That's what community means. That's what love means. We hold each other up when we're weak. We celebrate each other when we're strong. We don't do this life alone." They reached their house and stood on the porch, looking at the lake reflecting the moonlight. When our daughter is old enough, Tom said, what will you tell her about all of this? Ava smiled. I'll tell her that her mom made mistakes, that she experienced terrible loss, that she was scared and broken for a while. But I'll also tell her that being broken isn't permanent unless you choose to stay broken. I'll tell her that courage comes in many forms, and I'll tell her that the best way to honor the past is to build a beautiful future. That's perfect, Tom said. They went inside their warm, welcoming home. Ava looked around at the life she had built, the photos on the walls, the comfortable furniture, the candles burning on the mantel, evidence of Tom's presence everywhere. She thought about Marcus, wherever he was. She hoped he was proud of her. She hoped he knew that his death, while tragic, had led to something meaningful. The peer support program had helped hundreds of first responders. Sophie and the others from the fire had gotten to live their lives. Ava had found love and happiness again. Marcus would want that for her. He would want all of this. As Ava prepared for bed that night, she did something she did every night. She said a quiet thank you. To Marcus for being her friend and partner, to the universe for giving her a second chance, to Willowbrook for accepting her, to Tom for loving her, and to herself for being brave enough to keep going when everything seemed impossible. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new opportunities. She would continue her peer support work. She would watch her belly grow with her daughter. She would make candles with Lily. She would have coffee with Martha. She would laugh with Tom. She would live. She would live fully, bravely, and with gratitude. Because she had learned the most important lesson of all. Trauma may change us, but it doesn't have to define us. We can survive terrible things and still build beautiful lives. We can be broken and then heal stronger than before. We can lose people we love and still find love again. We can walk through fire and come out the other side, not unscathed, but somehow better for having made the journey. That night, Ava slept peacefully, without nightmares, wrapped in Tom's arms. She had finally found what she was looking for when she first came to Willowbrook. She had found home. She had found purpose. She had found peace. And most importantly, she had found herself again. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear what inspired you the most. And where in the world are you watching from? Let us know below.